Hello, ladies, and welcome back to another edition of Menopause Made Easy with Tanya, Thriving After 45. And this is episode 2 of my sugar mini series. In our last episode, we looked at the chemical addiction to sugar, how it hijacks your brain and body. Gosh, I was there. I'm still there at times. I'm learning to unwind all of that, but I know that it's not a lack of willpower and that there's nothing the matter with me. That's how we are built. Some of us mild, moderate, intense. You decide, you know yourself. Anyway, today we're turning to the emotional and habitual side of sugar, why it becomes comfort, a coping tool, and even a secret shame, which is what I talk a lot about in my book called Cookie Dough in the Dark. In the dark is because of the shame, the hidden eating. And again, some of you may eat sugar and you're like, I don't care. All right. Some of you may have more shame around it, which was what I did. It was definitely a comfort and a coping tool for me. So I have learned many skills. I'm going to share some of them with you today. I talk about them in my book as well. And I've also done many an episode on cravings and sugar and habits and all sorts of fun stuff, and have some great episodes coming up as well. So let's dive in to the emotional and habitual side of sugar. I'm going to tie this a little bit to my book, but I used to think my problem with sugar was just about cravings. All right. Like, oh, it's after dinner. I feel like having some sugar. I didn't realize my energy was dipping and I had sugar. So many things. And you know what? I talk to women and we'll talk about this. And then they'll come back to me like a week, a month later, and they're like, oh my gosh, Tanya, I never thought about these things we're talking about. So, I always say we don't know what we don't know, and that awareness is the key to healing. So just listen and see if you have any aha moments as you go through this. And we are like an onion. And every time you talk about it, think about it, be compassionate, curious, you peel a layer of the onion. So something that you might have kind of heard before, it doesn't make sense, but now it makes sense. And because you're at a new layer of your onion. And this is what I have found for me over the years and decades. Okay. So I thought that sugar was just about cravings, but over time I realized it was also about the emotions I was trying to cover up, but I didn't know what to do with these emotions because they started in childhood and I ate to soothe myself. And then if you read any of Joe Dispenza's work, and there's lots of other people that talk about this work, but then you start to create this habitual pattern of I feel this and I do this. And it's not aware to you unless you really sit back and watch yourself. So what I found out about myself is when I was stressed, lonely, or overwhelmed, sugar felt like a quick hug and it softened the edges of whatever I was feeling because I didn't know how to deal with my stress properly, how to deal with feelings of loneliness, how to deal with feelings of being overwhelmed. And so I did what I knew how to do, and that was to eat sugar to calm myself, only in the moment though, because then what happened is that shame would creep in because I'd eat in secret, I'd eat late at night, I'd eat cookie dough in the dark. And I didn't want anyone to see me because deep down I felt guilty, embarrassed, and even out of control. Okay. And here's the tricky part. I've done an episode on shame. I think it's number 56, but if you just put, above in the little search bar, shame, it'll pull up the episode. Shame doesn't stop the behavior. It actually fuels it. And I did not understand about shame. So really listen to that episode. It's really interesting, but shame loves you to keep secrets. Okay. And shame actually fuels your behavior. And the more ashamed I felt, the more I wanted to hide, and the more I reached for sugar to soothe those feelings. And I was in a vicious cycle. And again, that's why I called my book Cookie Dough in the Dark, because I lived in that cycle of secrecy and shame. All right. And so shame does not want you to talk about things. So I freely talk about, all of this now. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so liberating. So if you have something that is weighing on you, by all means, just talk about it. It might be hard. I know I've dealt with people and they just cannot let it go, but that shame is holding a grip on you. So as much as you can, even just write it in a journal or tape it into a phone. Just let it out of your system. Okay, so let's talk about why emotions drive sugar eating. Sugar isn't just sweet on the tongue. It temporarily boosts dopamine, okay, that and serotonin, which makes us feel good. It gives us a lift for a moment. It feels like, oh, I can breathe again, which is exactly how I felt when I was, overwhelmed, tired, lonely, stressed. And I'd have that sugar and I'd be like, oh, great. Okay. But stress, sadness, loneliness, boredom. I hear a lot of women eat for boredom. This sugar becomes a quick fix. And over time, you're rewiring a signal in your body, and your brain learns when I feel this way, sugar makes it better. Okay, so that's definitely what I had going on. When I feel this way, sugar makes it better. And remember, sugar is not just sugar out of a sugar bowl. It's, anything that is a simple carbohydrate. Okay, remember there's a simple carbohydrate and a complex carbohydrate. Complex carbohydrates are more your vegetables. Okay, simple carbohydrates are your pastas, popcorn, chips, juice, pops, baked goods, etc. So this is the emotional side of addiction, sugar as a comfort tool. So why emotions drive sugar eating is because over time we feel a certain way and we have a drink, or we feel a certain way and we eat a bag of chips or popcorn or cookies or something that soothes us. And it's typically not broccoli or carrots or steak, right? It's something of that carby fluffiness. And this habit loop forms. So emotional eating often becomes habitual, and the brain wires sugar into our routines. So you may notice that after dinner, you feel like something sweet. Okay. Coffee, you add something sweet. You've had a bad day, ice cream on the couch, a bag of chips in front of the television. And these habits feel automatic because your brain has paired a trigger, which is stress, time of day, or event, with a reward, which is sugar, eating in front of the television, alcohol, something like that. Now, if you're doing this and you don't have a problem with your health, with your waistline, with trying to reduce fat on your body, um, if you are just in perfect health, then that's okay. You know what? I'm not saying that you should never eat sugar again or that you shouldn't watch a movie and have a bag of chips. What I'm trying to say here is that if it is causing you, um, any kind of health problem. We have a diabetic, a real problem with diabetes, pre-diabetes, blood sugar, insulin resistance. It's a problem. Okay. We also have a lot of women and men, but I'm speaking specifically to women who have extra fat stored on their body that they don't want. There's a lot of inflammation, achy joints, right? That is caused partly by our diets. So we do have a lot of control. So if this is something that you want to look at, it's important to look at your emotions and see what emotions you're feeling and how you work through them. It's important to look at your habit loops, right? And see if this is happening to you. And then look at the spiral if you are in a shame spiral at all. And this is the heavy part. this is when you are eating sugar to cope, and then shame kicks in because you are sitting there, something happened, you start to eat sugar, you can't stop eating sugar, you start to feel guilty and shameful about it, and then you feel even worse, and then you eat even more sugar to soothe the shame and the guilt, and I'm such a horrible person, and why do I keep doing this? And that is not a good loop to be in. And shame thrives in secrecy. It whispers, don't tell anyone. Keep this hidden. But when we hide, we bury not only the original emotion, but also the shame on top of it. And that double layer is exhausting. And I lived there for so long and I had no idea. And you know what? I was not taught this. This was definitely not talked about when I was growing up. Definitely not talked about. It's more open now, so which is fabulous, and more people are talking about it. So they're taking the secrecy out of it. So breaking the spiral is naming and claiming it and just being honest and saying, I had a bad day. I'm choosing to eat this or drink this. Okay, I'm going to name it. I'm going to do it in front of people instead of perhaps hiding it. When they say, don't you think you've had enough? You can say, you know what? I am consciously choosing to eat this right now because I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then you just are in a more conscious, like conscious loop as opposed to unconsciously doing something. All right. So saying out loud, like, yes, I ate the pie. Yes, I ate the ice cream. This happened. I'm human. It's because I'm feeling this. I understand that there are better skills that I need to develop to perhaps not dive in as much as I am diving in, but I'm going to tackle that at another time. So the first step is really this awareness and naming and claiming it. And this honesty releases the grip of shame and guilt. It moves the behavior out of secrecy and into the light where healing can begin. And that's why my tagline on my book is called A Journey to Vibrant Health. All right. So let's talk about name it out loud. Let's do a little practice right now. Let's bring this to the forefront. Think of the last time you ate sugar in a way that you didn't feel good about. And maybe you overdid it, maybe you hid it. All right. So I can honestly say it was just Thanksgiving. And I have been just really paying attention to I always say to people there are certain things that, like cookies, a ooey gooey chocolate chip cookie is at the top, like one of the top things on my list of 10 out of 10. And if I'm eating something that is not as good as that, why don't I stop? And I had such clarification this weekend as I was eating pie, and I had some lemon meringue pie, which it's not my favorite. I had some pumpkin pie, not my favorite, and I'm actually sitting there and eating it, and I'm going, I am full. I This is not a 10 out of 10. This isn't even an 8 out of 10 for me. And yet I'm still eating it. Okay. And I was overdoing it. Okay. So that was just one incident. And I actually left a little bit on my plate, but I could have stopped. And so now I'm asking myself, okay, why couldn't I stop? What is it that made me eat it anyway? Like, why didn't I just say no, thank you? So I'm being curious instead of going, you're such an idiot. Why did you do that? I'm beyond that. Okay. And I just say it out loud or to myself. I just ate it. Okay. No judgment, no shame, just the truth. And then I ask myself questions. And then we're at somebody else's house right now, and they served us dessert, and it was a bread and butter pudding. It's homemade. It was, wonderful. but I wasn't hungry. And one thing I have been working on is if I'm not hungry, why am I eating? And then um, in this case, we're at this person's house. I didn't want them to feel bad, and I'm eating it. And I'm like, is this a 10 out of 10 for me? No. Is this a 9 out of 10? No. Is this an 8 out of 10? No. Okay. So, but I kept eating it, but I was thinking about this in my head, and then I stopped. So I was like, oh, win for me. Okay. So just noticing and paying attention is really important. It's the first step. Now, it's really interesting. I was thinking about this and I was like, why can I say no to dessert sometimes? Because this summer I was at somebody's house and they served lemon meringue pie. And I was like, you know what? I'm really full. Can I take the piece home and have it later? Okay. So why didn't I do that this time? And those are the kind of things oh my gosh, I could be, I can't believe that these are some of the conversations I have in my head to start with. But anyway, again, like I said, some of you may think this is crazy because you don't have any problems with sugar, and some of you can absolutely identify with what I'm talking about. So all I'm saying is that no judgment, no shame, no guilt. Ask yourself questions, be curious, be compassionate, and just feel the difference in your body. So don't hide it. Naming it takes the power away from the secret, and that's the first step to freedom. So I'm just going to do a little recap here on some steps to reduce the emotional and habitual sugar eating cycle. So before you reach for something, name the feeling before the sugar. So this is what I talk about in my book, Cookie Dough in the Dark. It's what I've talked about, oh my gosh, in a lot of my courses. And I call it PBA technique. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself questions. Am I hungry or am I sad, stressed, tired? Am I feeling obligated to eat it? Is it a holiday? Just try and name the feeling, name the situation. Then, if you can, find non-food comfort. So, for example, if you're feeling sad, okay, if you're feeling sad, can you call a friend? Can you take a walk? Can you do some deep breathing? Can you journal why you're sad? Right? So, can you just put something in the place of food? And then you could even afterwards, if you're still wanting to eat, you can eat something, but at least you've put in a little bit of a pause. All right. What we really want to do is break the habit loop. So, can you change your routine slightly? If dessert always follows dinner, go brush your teeth or make a cup of herbal tea instead. And this is one thing I have suggested to my clients for years. Go floss your teeth, brush your teeth right after dinner, put some peppermint toothpaste in your mouth, swirl it around, because sometimes we just need that little bit. I know for me it works. Um, most of the time, this is what I end up doing. All right. So, and then I'll have a cup of tea. And the other thing is because I know how going through perimenopause and menopause, how women are much more insulin resistant towards the end of the day, I really make the shift most of the time to eat anything sweet before 3 o'clock. So if I want something sweet, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to have it before 3. And then if it's after 3, I don't eat it. Now, that works most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work if I'm on vacation or at somebody else's house or it's a holiday, but most of the time, and that's what I'm going for. I'm not going for perfection. I don't need perfection. I just need most of the time I'm doing the right thing. Okay, step number 4 is use replacement rituals. So if ice cream is your comfort, maybe you try some yogurt with some frozen berries, and maybe you even put it on the blender and blend it up so it is not chunky. So try that. If cookies are your habit, which I did, and if you have my book Cookie Dough in the Dark, I do, raw cookie dough balls. Oh my gosh, they're so delicious. Okay, so You could do some raw balls. You could do some homemade granola. You could do some cut up fruit. Sometimes it's just something crunchy. So I'll have grapes. I don't like frozen grapes, but I'll just have some grapes or a little bit of fruit, and that helps. And so just think about some replacement ideas that you could use. And then just ask yourself questions, because the other thing is, and I talk about this in my book, is that I went through a phase of making chickpea cookies. And at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? I'm not a calorie counter, but I was just like, I would rather eat a real cookie that is a 10 out of 10 than something that is a 3 out of 10, because it is a waste of calories and it's not doing anything for me. So if you're eating stuff that's just not lighting you up, just think about that as well. All right. And then if you are feeling any shame or any guilt, just say it out loud. Let go of your secrets. There's no hiding anymore. And just come to that peaceful moment of just being truthful with yourself. And let me know if you've been trying these steps, if any of them resonated with you, and just pick one. Just pick one and start with that. Emotional and habitual eating is not about weakness. It's about needing comfort and falling into patterns. And I truly believe we have not been taught the skills of dealing with uncomfortable emotions, which I have talked a lot about, in my personal, or sorry, with personal clients and group coaching. Okay, so really developing the skills to sit in discomfort, noticing your patterns, and then taking the steps to change those patterns. And then if you feel shame, how do you release shame and guilt? And by naming what's really going on, by gently shining a light on the secret, you can take away shame's power and begin to choose differently. All right, so notice your emotional habits around eating. Notice your habitual habits around eating sugar or just over consuming food, because sometimes that's just it's not even sugar. I just like good food. All right, so tomorrow, hopefully, we will explore the social and cultural side of sugar, why it's tied to celebrations, family traditions, and even how food companies design it to keep us hooked. All right. And remember, sugar is never just about sugar. There's always something else going on. Thank you for listening, my lovely ladies. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend who might be carrying their own cookie dough in the dark story. It's time to release it and let it go. Thanks for listening. Healthy hugs. Bye.